Welcome to the TNT Effect, the Athletes Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tierra, Doctor of Physical Therapy and Certified Athletic Trainer. Today I have with me former NFL wide receiver Kyle Prater. Hey Kyle, how are you today?
How you doing, Tierra? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I want to know about this history before we get into your filmmaking and all the different things that you have going on today. Let's talk about your journey as an athlete. When did you get started and what that looked like, your experiences in the at the collegiate level as well as the professional level.
Collegiately, so coming out of high school, was the number one wide receiver coming out of high school in college, Chicago. Um, Played at Proviso West, then went off to play at USC, and then I had some injuries that happened at USC that kind of put me down, and from there it trickled down and it kept continuing to happen. And I had to transfer because some things going on with the coaches, and so I left and came back to Chicago, and then transferred to Northwestern, and then uh, from there, the same things followed me with injuries, and but I was still blessed to be able to get to NFL and play 2 years. But again, the injuries still followed me there too, and so you take a kid that went from being the number one player in the nation to getting hurt in college and to having that downward, slope, happen of injuries, and I never expected it. But it put me in position to tell the story of all those things that I went through in a documentary called Shifting Gears, when I retired. And it was God's calling, basically, to go back on my career and look at it and document it and tell it. And now put me in position to tell stories today with my own company, Chasing Greatness Productions. So it's been like a journey. Every time I intro myself, is really hard to just give a simple just hey, I'm Kyle and play football, and I had this happen. So I just had a lot happen that made me who I am today. I directly reflect my experiences with who I am today. So yeah.
So when the injury started and it kept happening one after the other, what made you continue?
My love for the game. At that time, I wasn't thinking post career, which I'm doing now. Then, I've always had drive and determination and grind in me. I grew up with a father that all he did was work. My mother, it was two-parent home. I saw them work, so I had that instilled in me from an early age. And then, to go through adversity, my father always say, you start something, finish it. And whether it's good or bad. And for me, it was a lot of bad in the case of injuries, but my mental was the one thing that was really challenged during those times, and my faith was the one thing that kept me through it too. So it was just this thing of like never giving up. One, I knew for me, I had a name on my back coming out of high school, number one player in the nation, and not that those things matter, but for me in my head, uh, just knowing that I have something I gotta represent my city. I got these things and all this. I had the media pressures on my back. So that stuff motivated me. People talking about me, down in me, and that motivated me. So to this day, that stuff still motivates me. For the next generation to tell these kids that they going through what I went through, but they don't know how to get through it. And so that's why I talk and about these experiences and make films about it as well.
So for your mental stamina or your mental health during that time, were there specific things that you actually or practically applied to help you stay on the right track mentally?
You know what? I listened to a lot of motivational speaking. I remember when I came back and transferred, um, I really was trying to turn it over and figure out like why was I getting hurt, and a lot of it was like self-inflicted stuff, overworking, and other injuries. I was compensating with other things, and so for me, I got to a dark place, and so only way to get out of a dark place is to crawl your way out, fight your way out, because I wasn't finna stay there, and I listened to a lot of Eric Thomas, Les Brown. Um, of course, my faith is through the roof, and I've always put my faith in God. But He put those resources as far as like, I asked God for help, and then the help was motivational speakers, meeting people, talking to people, having my family and support, people that still saw that talent in me, because a lot of people didn't see it after the injuries, but I still did. And so for me to pull 2 years out of the NFL, I'm like, hell yeah, like, like
That's a big
it's like
deal.
my version of success is different from everybody else, and I think that's what I've learned to just as of now today is like my success is my success. I ain't worried about the outside and all. You gotta be on the red carpet. Right? I will get there eventually, but I'm saying like you have to do all these things. Like no, I don't. If I'm happy with just having this small win, and I'm cool.
Exactly.
That.
Celebrate the small wins.
Yeah, yeah. So that's yeah, I learned a lot during that time, man, of being down. It's like shit. I'm glad I went through it. Because it put me in a place now is I can't break. You ain't gonna break me. I've been broken.
Solid, rock solid. So how did
Yeah.
you your experience with the athletic training staff, and I don't know if you worked with any sports psychologists during that time or sports nutritionists, but anybody, the strength and conditioning staff, what was your relationship with them, and how did they help you overcome the numerous injuries that you faced during that time?
Man, want me to be honest? I
Yes.
didn't talk. I didn't talk to nobody. I didn't have the resources that they say they have. Is like they have them, but you be afraid to go talk.
Why?
Because it's because it's something that the stigma of talking to someone about a problem. It's like, especially in the Black community, get help. Mental health is like, oh, you go talk to somebody, oh, you crazy, But that's a stigma that we got to break. It's like now, to this day, I still have it. I talk to people as far as like on the phone, and we getting more towards that anyway because of COVID. But now I've been more open to talk about some of the problems. Like, if you watch the documentary, I talked about my addictions. I was highly addicted to pain medicine in college, starting at USC, and then it trickled over to the Northwestern because the injuries kept following. So I was always having access to what? Pain meds. They'll give it to you like candy. And so you come, for me not playing, my way of coping with pain was take pain medicine because it numbs everything. And you figure out how to use it. You get teammates to tell you how to use it, blase, blase, when you're not, you like playing or anything, you going out on it. And so it was a lot of things, man. But for me, it's just like looking back on it, I'm glad I went through it. But again, it's just for the next generation because these stories that I tell, a lot of stories that people don't tell, they feel trapped, can't talk about it. And so again, for me, it's just always having open dialogue. And again, the mental health space is, talking to somebody about it. For me, talking about it was talking through film. I talked through films and art, and that was my form of therapy. And
At
so
that
it's
time
very
or
maybe
now?
now. Then it was my form of therapy was on the field, but it was always my form of therapy. But when you don't have it, I turn to something else. But now that I knew that I couldn't live that life no more, it's like I have to turn to God, and then He had to strip me of a lot of things. But He was my number one psychologist, and He still is, always will be before anybody. And but yeah, if that answers your question.
Do you think that if you talked to somebody at that back then, you would have been able to avoid the addictions that you had at the time?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely would have because it was frowned upon to talk to somebody. But now it's like I'm open to talk about it because I'm removed from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the situation in real time, it would have been good. It would have been good to talk to somebody about like why is the media talking all this shit about me and I'm like 18, 17, and like who plays the game to get hurt? Like who plays the game? No one plays the game to get hurt. Like I left high school early to come to y'all. I left high school, graduated early to 2,000 miles away. And like my first ever major injury came in college. I never got hurt in high school. And it wasn't like I was invincible, but it was like for me, I relate everything back to God. Like God was like, well, you think, you was too big headed, going through life, and I always had a foundation in God. My family raised me in the church, but we always fall off a little bit. We ain't perfect. But God's way of making me fall off was like, yeah, man, you want to get to the league and play these years? You thought, but I'm still gonna put you in that light, but I need you to cut the switch on. Like you're great, but I want you to be great in another space. and which is now, I'm not on the field no more, but I'm still around athletes. I'm shooting commercials with athletes like DK Metcalf. We just shot a commercial with Jamal Adams, Spice Adams, KD. If you would have told me this, asked me if I would be doing this before all the injuries and stuff, I would have told you like, what? Hell no. 12 years in the league or 6, giving you something. But that was me. It was all me. But once you start, living in servitude and, think about others and what I do makes people smile, cry, all that type of stuff. So I think I like that better.
So walk us through when you're making those films. Walk us through maybe just the questionnaires that you may ask the guys. Um, you know how that process goes and what you're looking for when you're selecting the guys to partner with to make the film.
Well, as far as the working with athletes and film, it's we've been doing more commercials with the athletes than anything now. The storytelling has been from my perspective and talking about my transition, and but more so the athlete connection. One is through relationships too, you know and then the other is just um me being from the field. And I think that's for me being a film director and a director producer in the space now that can tell stories and dealing with athletes. I know the athlete because I was an athlete. And so just the relatability factor, and to be able to relate to people no matter whatever level, tier, top, whatever they're on. you know.
Have you run into any guys with stories that are similar to yours or very much the same?
Yeah, I have run into guys with similar stories, and especially when I did the Shifting Gears film, I got a lot of DMs and messages about like, man, I was going through that, man. I didn't even know you were going through it, and like making people reveal themselves, and it was like there'd be times where sometimes if you don't say it, people will never say it or express that they're going through it. But and once you pull that heartstring and they're like, oh shit, he said that. Oh, I can say it now too. I feel strong now. I feel powerful now. I can talk about it because he is. Because look at him, he ain't. I'm removed from it. It got no power over me. Every time I talk about it, it removes it. Talking to you about it removes it. Shit. So it's like a lot of things. The way I got through a lot of stuff too was unconventional. Because I had to, go through a lot of stuff on my own, and that's a lot of things we are afraid of being on our own. Isolation, um, idle minds. I went to places that like um, I never thought I'd go mentally, but now it's like it was it, worth it.
It was worth it because of who you are now.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
the most
now,
important.
what are your biggest rewards now?
Peace,
That's a good one. That
peace.
is huge. So how do you
Yeah, man.
find peace? I know your faith in God.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You find peace by um, getting out your own way and truly letting go and letting God and letting Him steer and let Him order the steps. Am I perfect? Hell no, I'm not. Um, but I think I have through this year, even just this year, like even before I was on this path of like growing, we all are, but this year was like a expedited version of you finna grow or not. It's like God's like, you growing today. You growing this year. It
Like
was
you
like
have
you
a
growing
choice.
this year. You ain't
uh
got no choice.
you have a
But
choice, but I strongly advise the growth process.
right. Right. But I strongly advise you to go this way. And so, but I think that part right there, just knowing that, like, it's a lot of people that don't even have that consciousness that God's right there saying, well, boom, I just sat you down. You can either go here or there. But a lot of people just like, boom, I got God stopped me, but I'm still gonna do my own thing. But it's the reason why He stopped us, like, because we was doing our own thing too much without Him at the helm, without Him like being at the forefront. And so, Yeah,
Whew.
we can go on and on. I know it's deep. I'm deep. I'm deep. I'm deep. T. I'm deep.
Hey, I love it. I love it. So, what are some of the biggest lessons? You talked about a few of them, but what are some of your biggest lessons that you've learned throughout this entire journey, up to this point, at least?
Well, it's something I'm still learning, but what I've learned is that life, one, is two things. Life is the number one teacher, you know, for real. And to just be yourself and not to dim your light. It's like so many times, like before my injuries, I was the light. I mean, I am now. I've always have been, but throughout life, things happen, relationships happen, careers happen. A lot of things happen in your life that like make your confidence shoot down. Like it shoots your confidence. Injury shot my confidence. Like the vibrant, walk into the room, all the just when you in the room, you bring joy to people. That all that gone. It was like, and so I had to go refine that. And true happiness for me too. I'm talking relationships too. I'm talking all these things like being in relationships that you're not happy. You just with relationships to validate you just because she looked good and what your sport is. You supposed to have that. That's so all these things I had to really just like what is for me, and like being happy. I always watch this Bernie Mac scene from House Party, and Kid was in there, and he was talking to him. He was like, if people don't like you for being yourself against the wall, with handcuffs on, with crazy glue up on your lips, like, and like it's funny, but like it's so true. And I'm like, man, if people don't like you for being yourself, like truly, just f them. Like it's just like once you find out your calling and your purpose, you know, you ain't really got the outside noise don't matter because you got a vision. You know what I'm saying? They hating on you and saying those things because they can't do it. So they're gonna find any and everything to kind of like deter you from doing that because they ain't got the strength, the courage, the power to do it. And then like, damn, I can't, And so I had to learn to truly get out my own way and stop worrying about the world and everybody's opinions because that's what I call opinions. They gonna say whoever created defined the word opinion was for a reason, to have one. And so, do I need to worry about every opinion? No. Do you
Absolutely
need to
not.
worry about every opinion? No. You don't need to worry about anything. You keep doing what you're doing on your end as well. And I know it, it's starting off, and this is just like on some like you stuff. It's about you now. I'm gonna put it on you. But like, you keep doing what you're doing too. Like to reach out and get people on your show and just keep building that. Just keep shooting those shots, whether they make or miss. Because the what's the best shot? What's they always say? What's that? The worst shot is the one that ain't shot, or some shit like that.
Something like
Forgot.
that.
Yeah, but you get the point, man. Just keep going, like for real, like for real.
So earlier you mentioned having all these different things going on, and your number one pick out of high school and things change. So it sounds like your identity was very much wrapped up into the game, right? And what was going on in the attention. What would you tell these younger athletes so they don't fall into that same pit or that rut?
I would tell them one, parents keep your hands on your kids. Of course, they got to grow up, but my parents kept their hands on me. But I went 2,000 miles away, and so I think for these kids these days, it's so hard, man, because social media is like booming, and they want instant gratification, and social media is like clouding these kids' minds and what the true purpose is behind the sport, or why even doing it. And so, for me, it's like just getting these kids to understand like why you doing it, why you playing in the first place, but also know that this NFL stands for not for long. So for me, as you saw, I had a whole plan. I thought I was finna play was first best player in the nation coming out, and then that didn't happen. So what did I have to fall back on? I got a degree from Northwestern, one of the top schools in the country, #1 graduation rate, and also have a mind too. And like, so I always try to tell the kids, like, I train kids on Sunday as well. It's like, yeah, we train the body, yeah, we train the movements, but make sure you train in your mind. Once you leave here, study, watch it, visualize, be a student of the game. So, but also too, it's like these kids got so many distractions. So it's like I can go so many places with it. But it's like I didn't have these distractions when I was coming out. It was just coming up. It
Right.
was just coming up. So now it's like it's here. It's like you born, when the moment you born, social media now, the era of kids now. So it's like, damn, back in the day when we was coming up, we had to fight and bust our ass, work countless hours training to get in position to be an influencer or somebody that can be on social media. Now you can just do it. And then there's ways to get on, which ain't conventional, it's unconventional because we get known by doing dumb stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. So yeah, I'll say this finish that question. Is just kids stay focused, man. Like find somebody, a mentor that they can latch on to. I'm not telling them get off social media. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, but they need to have balance. There has to be balance amongst all of those things, those tiers, because it can overwhelm you and become a distraction, and you lose focus.
So what should that balance look like?
Balance is like example. I went to USC, and there's of course gonna college is college. You gotta have fun. I'm not gonna say you gotta live your life, but everybody's different. If you got meetings in the morning, which we always do, um, make sure you plan that around your classes and certain things like that. Get enough rest, take care of your body, put the right foods in it. Nutritionally, if you have a nutritionist at your school, talk to her, talk to him or her, be in cahoots with them, ask questions, and and yeah, man, just be a student of the game. Be a student of the game.